Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I'd like to discuss the news that Boris Johnson is planning what is termed a bonfire of EU laws and regulations in a bid to win over wavering Tory MPs as pressure is mounting again on his leadership. The main point of interest here for me is that the move exposes the very real divisions within the Tory parliamentary party and show just how unpredictable the party's shift could be if and when Johnson falls. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So before I get into the politics of interest here, just the quick fact check. When Boris Johnson says he's planning a bonfire of EU laws, what he means are British laws. Boris Johnson can't change a single EU law because he does not represent the EU. In case he hadn't noticed, he ripped our country out of the Union and now we're socially, politically and economically screwed. And for those who say, he means EU laws in the UK, Phil, you know, like when we were in the EU, there aren't any. The only laws which are active in the UK right now are those which were legislated for by a UK Assembly. So the only laws that Johnson can move to repeal are those passed by Westminster specifically. They are UK laws. He's talking about repealing UK laws. And the UK laws that Johnson is talking about repealing, predictably, relate to workers' rights, environmental protections and safety laws. The very ones that the far right of his party want obliterating and the very laws that exist to protect ordinary people, as well as our trade. Because I won't get too much into this, but of course if he does repeal all these laws, all of a sudden we're going to find ourselves with tariffs slapped on a load more goods when we try and export them to the EU, as is allowed for by the Trade and Cooperation Agreement. Of course, their client media will tell us it's all in our interests, letting us work in an unsafe work environment, letting our bosses sack us on the spot for no reason, and making it really difficult to actually trade our goods, more difficult to trade our goods with the EU. Apparently that would be good for us. But never mind that. What I want to discuss are what this says about the Conservative Parliamentary Party. Because we're yet again in a window of pressure for Boris Johnson. It may lead to his fall within a few weeks. It may not. Who knows? I don't know. But a confidence vote could be triggered in the next few weeks. Boris Johnson could potentially lose that vote. Indeed, that's why Johnson is promising this bonfire of laws, because he believes he could lose it. He's done it before. In fact, he does it every time his leadership is under pressure, and when that pressure subsides, he seems to forget all about it. Numerous times you've seen this same headline on the Daily Express and the Daily Mail. It's every time he's under pressure. And this is the first thing to note. This is an indication that Boris Johnson doesn't actually consider gutting our laws and regulations to be a priority for him. He's probably got people to explain to him in crayon how it would be bad for our trade apart from anything else. But I'll return to that point in a moment. But let's say Johnson falls, let's just say. Whether it be through a confidence vote defeat or through a recall resulting from the Privileges Committee investigation, however or whenever it happens, the question people will be asking is, what sort of Conservative Party will emerge? Now, I think anyone hoping for a return to a more moderate Conservative Party are, I think, in for a rude awakening. In many ways, I don't see a massive shift in the way they do things. The difference is likely only to be in the way they manage their destructive behaviour. But I've seen a few commentators thinking that it's either very likely or certain that the party will lurch to the right. That Johnson, bizarrely, is actually something of a liberal compared to many of the swivel-eyed loons in the parliamentary party. And that is true enough. But it's far from certain that the party will lurch to the right. Now, let me explain my thinking here. Boris Johnson is promising to lower our legal standards for workers' rights, environmental protections, tax laws, health and safety laws. He's doing this to appeal to the far right, but he isn't himself convinced that this is the right move politically, economically or otherwise, or he'd have done it. He's had plenty of time to start scrapping these laws if it were a priority for him. So here's the thing. Let us imagine that Johnson actually represents the liberal wing of the party, that it's certain his replacement would be much further to the right because by and large the parliamentary party is further to the right. If that hypothesis is correct, how would Johnson's plan possibly work? MPs on the right would look at Johnson's proposals and come to the conclusion that he doesn't really want it, so why not get rid of him and get someone in who believes it? they will then repeal those laws quickly and efficiently because it'll be their genuine priority. And it's not even like they've got the excuse that Johnson at least guarantees them the next election. They know he's not going to win them the next election. So why not just get rid of him? That Johnson is even making this pitch, as he has several times before, suggests to me that those on the right of the party must think there is a credible risk of Johnson being replaced by someone more moderate, perhaps even someone with a backbone who'll stand up to them. Now, don't get me wrong. I do think there is a greater than 50% chance that the party would shift to the right if Johnson's replaced. This could be down to being replaced by either someone who is further to the right or by someone who is just weaker and will consciously agree to act as the ERG's puppet Prime Minister in return for the pretence of power. I can see Liz Truss fit in this role, for example. I don't think she's all that bothered about leading. I think she just likes to feel important. Like Johnson, she doesn't really seem to have any political convictions. Politics is just a career for her. So I can absolutely see her doing whatever is needed to retain her position without any desire to have achieved anything at the end of it all. But for Johnson's gambit to work, those on the right would have to believe that replacing Johnson is a risk, that he could be replaced by someone who would not do what they want. And although we don't know if this latest gambit will work, because it's not yet played out, we do know that it's worked in the past, because he's used it in the past. Which means that as far as Tory MPs are concerned, this party's post-Brexit, or post-Johnson direction is far from certain. Which is interesting when you consider that Johnson expelled almost all the champions from the Liberal wing of the party before the 2019 election. That should have tilted the balance of power much more decisively in favour of the likes of the ERG, as well as their various sister groups. And they certainly have been the ones putting the most pressure on Johnson. But they haven't been getting the results exactly as they intended. They wanted the Northern Ireland Protocol scrapped by now. Now, although Johnson still keeps talking about moves towards that outcome, he's been dragging his feet for an awful long time, and you wouldn't bet against it never actually happening. They were opposed to coronavirus restrictions, and although they've now got their way with that, they were constantly frustrated throughout the first year or so of the pandemic. They only started getting their way when Johnson started coming under massive pressure as a result of the likes of the Owen Paterson scandal and Partygate, where he's now completely in hock to the ERG. They've also got net zero in their sights. Again, they're making progress with that, but it's clear that Johnson isn't completely on their side over any of these issues, really. So every victory they've been getting has been hard fought, taken a long time, and has been a shadow of its former self. I just looked at it this way. If it were absolutely certain that Johnson would be replaced by someone closer to their wavelength, these swivel-eyed loons on the right, they'd have put their letters in by now. And this group of Tory MPs is numerous enough to coordinate a confidence vote against Johnson very quickly and very likely make sure that he would lose that confidence vote. So we don't know how the post-Johnson government would really change, if at all, in terms of priorities. I think we can say one thing, however. Whichever Prime Minister takes over would struggle to make good on all its priorities, whatever they are. Boris Johnson is already finding it difficult to win votes in Parliament now. He has been on for a few defeats. He's had to wave the white flag rather than be defeated. He's got a 76-seat majority at the moment. Johnson united his party around the implementation of Brexit and his hugely successful general election campaign. His successor would not enjoy that unity, because whomever is elected could well end up being seen as, at best, a consolation prize by their backers and someone who's going to wreck their fortunes by opponents. In short, whatever follows Boris Johnson may well find themselves in an even weaker position than Johnson is after a very brief honeymoon period, which I'm sure they'll get. But after that's over, they may find that rebellions start making major reforms all but impossible. Which could be to our advantage, because Tory reforms are never exactly in our interest. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. Maybe even click on the join button if you're interested in memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.